Hey everybody, this is Marley K. Hope you all are well. Today I want to talk to you about a really important subject, and it is about the enemies in our own households, in our families. And let me explain to you what I mean by this because I don't want people to get offended. But as times get difficult, people who are responsible, people who are wise and awakened and paying attention to all the different signs, people who are led by the Most High in Scripture, you understand things are transitioning at a rate that we've probably never seen in our lifetimes, and not even in our parents' lifetimes. And so, with that, we have to prepare for times, difficult times, and possibly times that our parents haven't even experienced. Nobody knows what's coming, but we know a lot of things are coming at one time. We're looking at famine, we're looking at possible, solar issues, weather issues, uh, climate change agendas, smart cities, contaminated food, um, pandemics. You just so many different things. Violence, community violence, repealing of laws, regression of morals and values of the nation. Um, an increase in people openly practicing and acknowledging and supporting satanic culture. There's just a lot of things happening, and I don't think people are really paying attention to how these things are going to come to a head all at once while we're in the throes of this World War III and national um, collapse. And people are still living their lives. They're watching the Super Bowl. They're dancing on TikTok. They're having plenty of fun, living their lives, dating, you know, just living like it was 1999. Not that it's 2023 on the way to Agenda 2030. And as we progress towards this dystopian hell we're headed towards, I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to the fact that everybody in your household is not necessarily on the same page as you. And I consider people who come to, watch my videos. I typically don't talk about things other Black people are talking about. I quit talking about racism because it's not going to do any good. It's not going to change anything. The people in this country are stubborn. They're stuck in their ways. The government is what it is. And so there's no need to continue talking about that, in my opinion. I'm all Captain Save Black people from calamity and this cataclysmic debacle of a national and European fall that we're all going to be ensnared in because we're captives in this state. Um, People tend to not think the way that I do. And so I find myself alone and an outsider a lot of times, and I'm quiet most of the times. I don't really have much to say because people aren't really talking about things that I care about and things that I see. And so I can tell people, hey, you should prepare, you need to buy, you need to do this, you need to do that. And people don't really pay any attention. They always think, oh, tomorrow, oh, nothing is going to happen, oh, everything is a conspiracy. And, I don't see these people doing anything to prepare for bad times. I don't see them, you know, preparing with medication, hygiene products, toiletries, uh, food, non perishables, trying to plant a garden, buying seeds, development skills. I don't see people doing that. I don't see Black people doing it. I don't even really see a whole lot of Black people talking about it. Black people are still talking about superficial things that are not going to matter when, you have things hit the fan. We got World War III right at the door. Next year's the first anniversary of the Ukraine and Russia conflict. The powers that be are expecting some big things to happen over the next couple of weeks. Black people are not even talking about it. Black people are like, oh, we got a couple of years. And, I don't feel that way. I've been extremely anxious over the last year because I just can sense something is brewing in the earth. You look at all the earthquakes and the weather disasters, the issues with the water, and Black people who are some of the poorest people, if not the poorest group in this country, act like it's not a big deal. I was at a friend's house and I have water there. I have a lot of water. And so when people come to her house, they always ask about why you have so much water. It's like, how come you don't have any water? Aren't you seeing what's happening in Flint? Didn't you see what's happening in, I can't remember if it's Alabama or Mississippi, Louisiana, just all these different states, and particularly Black communities that are having issues with water. The train derailments in Ohio, South Carolina, Houston, Tennessee, all these things are happening that impact our daily lives. If you have to evacuate, if you don't have something and you need to go to the store and get it, well, everybody needs to go to the store and get it because in your community, everybody's impacted at the same time. Who's ready? So I want to talk about the enemies in your family, the enemies in your households, because those are the people who are going to cause you grief, cause you to second guess what you should be doing. You're not going to listen to, I'll say, I'm going to say the Most High. Prophetic wisdom that he gives you because you are attentive, because you're awakened. You're going to miss it because you're dealing with people who are enemies. So let me read you a scripture right quick. Micah 7, verses 5 through 7. And this is the New Living Translation. Don't trust anyone, not your best friend or even your wife. Now, this could be for anyone, but I'm assuming because they say your wife, it's for patriarchs or the men who are responsible for taking care of their families, their immediate family, and maybe even their extended family. When you hear from the Most High, you have to do what he tells you to do. And everybody else around you may not be hearing because they're in this world. Are you prepared to do whatever you have to do, whether it is prepare alone? You may have to leave those people. And, we could talk about Lot's wife, how Lot, got a warning from the Most High that the city was getting ready to be destroyed. And he needed to move his family immediately, leave, pick up what you needed to get and get out of the city and go to the next city because that city was going to be destroyed. And Lot's wife left, but she turned back because she wanted to, I guess maybe look at that one last glance at her city. Maybe she wanted to look at her house. Maybe she had friends back there she was going to miss. She just couldn't believe it. But because she was disobedient to her husband and didn't listen to her covering, she ended up turning into a pillar of salt. Now, you can or cannot believe this story, but what I want you to take away from this is that when the person who is leading you, who is responsible for you, who is awakened, and who is responsible for protecting and covering a family, is awakened, and you can see all these different things around them, whether it be a male or a female, because I know a lot of women don't have men, they don't have husbands, they don't have significant others who are going to lead them. But you're going to have to be responsible for yourself, or maybe you have children, maybe you have parents that you're responsible for. But if you are awakened and you're listening to the Most High, and then you have a best friend or just old casual friend who isn't awakened and not paying attention to what happens, and then things go wrong, this person is relying on you for their survival, but they have poor planning, they don't bring anything to the table, and not only that, they're contrary and cause strife in your household. How are you going to deal with that person? Do you have a plan? um, if you're a husband and you have a wife, what if your wife is disobedient and out of order? What if your wife is unruly? What if you have a modern woman and she's like, I don't want to leave my family. I don't want to leave my house. Most High might have told you, you got to get out of the city, go to the country. Maybe he told you to buy some land in the country. Your wife doesn't want to live in the country, but you heard clearly you need to get out of the city. Um, maybe it's you were told to buy some additional preparations and your spouse doesn't want to spend the money on those things, but those things will help you endure to the end of whatever crisis is coming if you put back and you prepare. But you're yoked with someone who doesn't want to do those things, or who don't believe in those things, or who's not supportive. If the Most High told you to do that and then you don't do it, are you going to curse your family and your household and be disobedient because you trusted the wife and decided to go with the wife instead of going with the Most High and what you got spiritually? It's just food for thought. For the son despises his father and the daughter defies her mother. During these difficult times, you're going to run into adult children because, young children, they got to do whatever the parents say, unless the parents are just horrible new age parents who just let the kids do whatever. But I can use myself as an example. I have sons, and neither of my sons are married. One has a girlfriend, but I tell both, you need to prepare, you need to do these things. Now they've prepared some, but they don't prepare in the way that I prepare. I tell them to buy food, put back food. They don't really buy food and put back food the way that I tell them to. I say buy weapons so that you can protect yourselves. Of course, they'll do that because men like toys. When I talk about have a plan, download your maps, get atlases, do these things so you can navigate if power goes out, if you don't have a phone, yada yada yada. Keep cash, just a lot of things. And I don't have any daughters, so I don't have to worry about anybody, a daughter defying me. And for my son, both of my sons, they don't really have any father. So right now, I'm it. I can talk till I'm blue in the face, but I can't make them do anything. Um, each one they've done something. So if we have to get together, I'm the matriarch of the family. But my father is still alive. So I'm going to be deferring to my dad, and I'm going to be suggesting my children defer to my father. He's in his 70s, but he's lived through Jim Crow and a whole lot of other stuff. My sons are going to have to obey my father. And if they don't want to obey my father, they're not going to be able to be in his midst, because he's going to be doing everything he can to save us. He's going to be needing all he can, all the help he can get from the males in the family to survive whatever it takes for us to survive. We have grandchildren, young children that are going to need protecting. If my father screws up, he screws up everybody, including the young children. So being obedient and willing to submit and follow the patriarch of the family is going to be vital. Patriarchs are not going to need enemies. Mothers who are trying to talk to their daughters, and their daughters are unruly, daughters don't want to listen, daughters got disobedient kids, trying to bring no good for nothing, no value, uh, dude around who's not going to contribute, don't know how to do nothing, got a whole bunch of mouth, want to sit around and play video games or sleep while other people working. That's an enemy in your household. What are you going to do about that? Are you going to tolerate that? Are you going to allow division to come into your camp? And we all know that a house divided can't stand. What's the plan? The daughter-in-law defies her mother-in-law. So again, it's the same situation. You have a mother-in-law and you have her, the mother's son. The son is going to be obedient to his mother, but his wife may not be obedient and respectful to her daughter-in-law. Mother-in-law's house may be a refuge, but daughter-in-law is going to be a problem. Are you prepared to deal with that? Are you having those tough conversations? If you know that, people don't like each other now, what's the plan for when things get bad? Do you have an alternative place to go? Are you talking to your spouses now so that those spouses can maybe circumcise their hearts and be willing to work with people that they generally don't have good relationships with during tough times, because tough times are coming? What is the plan? The last line says, your enemies are right in your own household. And this is where I want to land my plane for a second, because, it says household, but, it could be family or your community. There's so many of us, and I'm specifically talking about African American Black people, but anybody can apply this to their personal lives or whatever their social circles are. We all got enemies in our families and in our households. If you are a person who preps, you're a person who are you're awakened, you can see what's going on. You might be the only one in your household who's seeing it and doing something, whether it's putting a little bit back, hiding some groceries, or doing all the prep work alone. You got everybody in the house, everybody else in your house think you're crazy. They're calling you conspiracy theorist. They're ignoring all the stuff that you're telling them. Sometimes you might be years ahead, like me. The Lord has blessed you with the ability to see into the future, and people don't see what you see, so they don't think anything is happening. They tend to think you're crazy. And even when you tell them and it comes to fruition, they don't thank you. They don't be like, oh yeah, I remember you told me that. Just act like nothing happened. And so those types of people will destroy your confidence. They will make you second guess yourselves. They will make you question whether or not the Most High is actually talking to you. And so you need to be thinking now, how are you going to deal with these people before the what hits the fan? Because those are people that you don't want to be dealing with. If they not rocking with you now, and you've been warning them, you've been telling them, hey, you better get water, you better get food, trying to make them a resource or some help so that you have more when things happen, and they're not doing it, that's an enemy. It's straight up, it's an enemy. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And so, a lot of times people don't think about those types of situations, but I do. And I want to encourage you all to not be afraid to call out your enemies. Know who your enemies are, label them, and figure out what you're going to do about them, because you don't need somebody that's going to be divisive in your camp when things get bad. You don't want people who are going to make you second guess yourselves, and you don't want people who are going to make you make bad choices. So, with that said, make sure that you look to the Lord or the Most High for your help. Think about those enemies, and please, please, please keep preparing, because things are going to get bad. So, again, your enemies are going to be right in your own household and in your family. Are you ready to deal with them? That's what I got for you. All right, good people. Like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel.